The story of Jonah as told in the Wonder Book of Bible Stories by David Kiles, published in 1953. The Runaway Prophet. Have you ever heard anyone described as the Jonah of the party? Did you know what it meant? A Jonah is one who seems to bring misfortune to any enterprise which would probably succeed if he were not one of the number. It is an idea which is nearly 3,000 years old, ever since the time when the prophet Jonah tried to flee from the presence of the Lord. The little book of Jonah, which has only 4 small chapters, opens with these simple words. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise and go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. Nineveh was the capital city of the Assyrian Empire, which conquered Israel. It lay away to the far northeast, but Jonah, instead of taking the long camel route overland to the far east, went by sea to the far west in the opposite direction altogether. He went down to the port of Joppa, and finding there a ship going to Tarshish, paid the fare to take him there. Some people think that Tarshish was Tartessus on the coast of Spain. Wherever it was so far away for those days that the Jews regarded it as almost out of the world altogether, a place outside even the presence of God. Now, why did Jonah want to get away from the presence of God, instead of obeying the word of God, which was that he should go to Nineveh? Before we try to answer that, let us see what happened to Jonah after he went on board the ship bound for Tarshish. Soon after they had sailed from Joppa, a great storm got up, and it looked as if the ship would be lost with all on board. The sailors did all they could to save the ship, and every man kept praying to his favorite god to save him. Where do you think Jonah was all this time? He was down in the cabin sound asleep. What are you sleeping for? Said the captain, as he tried to waken him. Get up and call on your God to save us. But it made no difference, and at last the sailors decided to cast lots to find out who on board might be responsible for the trouble they were in, and the lot fell on Jonah. The sailors said to Jonah, Who are you? What are you doing here? What is your occupation? Where do you come from, and what is your nationality? I am a Hebrew, replied Jonah, and I worship Jehovah, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. I am on board fleeing from the presence of God. Why have you done this to us? They cried. What are we to do to you to make the sea calm? For the seas were rising higher and higher over the ship. Take me up, said Jonah, and throw me into the sea, and it will be calm for you. For I know it is because of me that the storm has overtaken you. The sailors did not want to do such a thing, and they rowed hard to get the ship to shore. But at last they had to give up. So they took Jonah and threw him into the sea, and there was a great calm. The sailors prayed that God would not punish them for throwing Jonah in the sea, for they had done it only because they felt somehow it was God's will it should be done. It was indeed God's will, as Jonah himself realized. It was a foolish thing to think that he could go anywhere God was not present. Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Cried the psalmist. Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. This is a message which may well have a sobering effect on those who are disobedient to God's will. But to those who love God, it is a great comfort.